Hey guys, Magic Man here, and today I'm bringing you a video in the Tier 4. It's one of the first Pan-Asian destroyers that I've played, and I have the stock torpedo. Everything on the ship is stock right now, so I have a very short range. The torpedoes go out to 7.3 kilometers, but they move at like 50 knots, 49. They're really slow, and you're going to see that that is actually a problem in this game, but I don't have the experience to get the upgraded torpedoes, which upgrade the speed to like 61 knots, which is unfortunate. But when you do that, it also shortens the range to 6.5, 6.3, which is basically the same detectability as the ship as far as range is concerned. So you can really only use them if you're retreating away from somebody. You can't basically sail up to a battleship and launch torpedoes in stealth because you don't have the range to do it on the upgraded torpedoes with this. With the Shenyang, the Tier 4 Pan-Asian destroyer. This destroyer, it kind of reminds me a lot of the USDDs when I first started playing them. I don't know how they play anymore because I haven't played the Tier 4 U.S. destroyer in a very long time, since since basically this game very first opened. It was one of the first lines I went down, was the U.S. destroyer line. Never finished it though. Actually, I haven't finished a lot of lines. I basically get into them, and then when I get into the top tier play, my teammate decisions frustrate me so much I don't even want to play the top tier games because I can't carry the team enough, I guess you could say. I don't feel like I have a big enough impact in those tiers to actually carry the team. And surprisingly, actually, I run across the V-170, and these ships, I noticed when I started shooting my guns, these aren't the most accurate guns in the world. They're good enough. Once the destroyers start getting bigger, they will definitely be serviceable, and they have a pretty good reload. It's a 5-second reload, I believe. And at this tier, it's not too. Well, actually, it's about a 6-second reload from what I'm seeing here on the screen. So it definitely did feel like a long reload, but you know, it's not as bad as the Japanese. That's all I can say. And you definitely have better alpha damage than the German destroyer, so I wasn't afraid of picking a fight with this guy because I knew I would probably win. Now, he is being spotted by my teammates, which is why I wasn't afraid to sail around this island and lose sight of him. But he does disappear off of the detection right there, which is fine because I'm basically planning on him being in the same spot since I broke his engine, but it looks like he's repaired it now, and he is actually smoking up, and I missed that shot because I didn't really take the time to see if he was accelerating. I just assumed that he was still sitting still, but it wasn't the case. And I still haven't used my torpedoes. And what's special about the torpedoes on the Shenyang and all the Pan-Asian destroyers that they're deep water torpedoes, so they're not going to hit destroyers, they're going to go right under them, but in exchange for that, the detectability on these torpedoes is like half a kilometer. So, having been a victim of these torpedoes, which is why I decided to go down this line, because one of the few lines I feel like the torpedoes are still going to be actually relevant and powerful. Unfortunately, I don't get to use them in this battle because of the way that the enemy team positioned themselves and where I was in relation to that. But I'm going to fire some down there. See if I might get lucky and hit one of those ships, because the detection on those torpedoes is so tiny, you know, 0.5 kilometers or 0.6, whatever it happens to be. Those guys, if they're sailing towards them, they're not going to see them until they're right on top of them. Like, you don't even have time to react, really. You might have those torpedoes because of how slow they are, and this guy's just sailing away in a straight line, which is making this easy for me to hit him and kill him. and knock out his engine again, so I gotta bring my lead back a little bit. Shouldn't gonna be too much of a problem. And you see, a lot of these shots are going high and low. I feel like I've got a pretty good aim going on here, but they're just not quite connecting, which is unfortunate. And there we go. We finally take him out. This guy is dead as a doorknob, and I can finally get the heck out of here. I'm in a bad position because it looked to me like most of the enemy team was sailing in my direction, and I didn't want to sail into these battleships and get clobbered by HE and AP. I took preventative maintenance on the one skill point that I have on this captain. Usually it's because I assume if I'm spotted in a destroyer, everybody's aiming at me, but that's not always the case. And I do want to use AP on this guy, but I don't want to be out in the open when I do it. And I, unfortunately, because I'm out of practice, I didn't stop in time to actually stop in my smoke screen. So I'm losing a lot of time here that I could be shooting this guy. And finally, underestimated how much velocity these guns have. They really... It's a fairly slow velocity, basically to say the least. They do get some hang time when you get further out there. But I do still like these guns, and my torpedoes actually run out, which is a good thing because I was worried that I was actually going to hit my friendly there because of the way that he was sailing. But he does get out of the way. And I'm going to have to unfortunately switch over to high explosive now because I thought this guy was about to rush me, which is why I went to full here. I also started sailing out of here because my smoke ran out. And that could have been the death nail in this guy. Most destroyers would have been accurate enough to land all those shots, and I aimed a little bit too high there. But this one was not. I actually take a big hit there, and it's not from that cruiser. That was actually battleship. I don't know if it was AP or HE. I assume it was AP because if it was HE, it probably would have broken a bunch of modules. But I basically get hit right in the butt with some battleship AP. And I'm sure it did penetration damage because of how much it chunked me for. But it looks like now it was actually an over-penetration. It's just this ship doesn't have a whole lot of health. But I am going to launch some torpedoes that guy's way. Hopefully he'll sail straight into him. Like I said, they're very slow-moving torpedoes, as you can see. They're moving away from me at the snail's speed. And this guy is turning. I kind of anticipated that he was turn, which is what that second sit was for. The first sit, just in case he keeps sailing straight at me. Second sit is if he turns. But he's going to do something that I don't expect. Not only was he sailing at a snail's pace, which is really sad, but he was going way slower than I expected, and so he manages to basically get right in between my two torpedo sets, which was really unlucky for me. He didn't turn as much as he thought I would, and he was basically going slower than hell. So that basically saved him. Now, at this point, I'm sailing around this island. I didn't want to go south of this island in case that South Carolina kept chasing me. But I am okay with going around the north side of this island. I just wouldn't want to be trapped on the south side of it if something happened. So now that I feel comfortable, I'm far enough away from these guys that nothing's going to happen, I'm going to go assist my teammates basically with taking out the rest of this team. And I'm really surprised that cruiser over there in the enemy cap is still alive. That guy actually lasts a long time, even though we have I don't know, I'd consider enough ships shooting at him to kill him fairly quickly. It just doesn't die. And now I'm in the unfortunate position of having to shoot at 2 battleships that are sailing in the opposite direction of where I want them to be going. So these guys are basically sailing away from me, which is the absolute worst angle to try and launch torpedoes at somebody. So I'm trying to set up a torpedo launch where maybe I can get kind of the side rear of the South Carolina. And right now it's not really working out for me. I have no idea how close I'm going to get because this destroyer is actually fairly quick. I think it gets up to 38.5 knots. So these are very quick destroyers, not as fast as the Russian ones, but very, very fast nonetheless. And I do enjoy my time with this particular destroyer. The only caveat I've had so far in the couple of games that I've played in it, I always end up on the flank where I wouldn't say my team wins, but we have enough numerical superiority that most of the time the enemy ships are running away from me. So I haven't really been able to actually hit anybody with my torpedoes because of that, because they're always running away, which really sucks. And that's going to be the case here in this game. So I decided instead of trying to chase fleeing battleships with, golly, that guy was going at snail's pace and now he's sped up to his full speed. So those torpedoes are definitely going to miss, unfortunately. And I don't know what the heck was up with that South Carolina driver. Usually people at these tiers are not wise enough to play against destroyers correctly, but that guy was doing everything he needed to do to avoid torpedoes, which just blew my mind. I'm like, either there's somebody in this game streaming and watching what I'm doing, or this guy is really good at sailing battleships against destroyers. And this is just one thing that I don't really like about these guns on this ship. I feel like they're pretty average. I just wish the accuracy was just a little bit better. I'm just like, I can't believe that only one of those shells hit a cruiser. A French cruiser is a fairly large cruiser at this tier, and I'm like, the shells dispersed over, under, only one of them hit. It's just amazing. Anyhow, I'm trying to decide if I want to come out of my smoke now or after these planes pass. I feel like he's probably going to rearm his planes, so he's not going to keep them around here too long. So I'm just going to go ahead and bail on this position, head south, try and get into a position where I can fire at the sides of the enemy, because at this point I can't really get in front of them. I have no idea which way they're going to be sailing, mainly because they're being surrounded. And it's looking pretty good for my team right now. I really want to take that cruiser out because honestly he's probably the biggest threat to me other than the carrier, and the carrier's not in a position where I can actually get to him. And I'm going to try and get as close as I can to this battleship and launch these torpedoes, which I have no idea what this guy's going to do. He's going to speed up, slow down. I just have no clue at this point. Like, he'll probably turn and speed up because he's going slow right now. In the South Carolina, I've wasted all my sets of torpedoes on him. I'm basically not going to hit him. This is one of the few guys who apparently actually knows how to drive a battleship. But I am going to smoke up here and try and waste this carrier. If I can get him off the battlefield, that'll be great. I just don't want him to try and survive and then end up chasing me around the map with his planes if this turns south for my team. And yeah, those torpedoes sail directly into nothing. Just a wide open space. They probably got spotted by a plane if I had to guess. But that's alright. I can live with taking a carrier out. It's called a constellation prize, I suppose. And at this point, I feel like we had this game in the bag, but my team does some very stupid things. There, you can see my the other destroyer on my team is actually rushing the enemy team for whatever reason. He actually gets taken out because of that stupidity. And we have there a cruiser right there. Yeah, he decided to rush in too. Actually gets taken out by the carrier. So that's not good either. But the one bright side of this whole situation is that the one very dangerous ship to me is that cruiser. And he's on extremely low health. At this point, I'm thinking maybe I can take him out. I will launch some torpedoes, though, just to kind of give him something to think about. Because I know he's turning his gun turrets to try and take a shot at me. He is going to have to turn in now. Yeah, because those torpedoes should have just been spotted there by those planes. Yeah, and there we go. He just turns in. And that should be enough for me to take him out. Yeah, there we go. Actually landed all the shells there. The reason I launched those torpedoes was to kind of get him to turn, because I wanted to manipulate his angle so that it was better for my guns to actually hit him. Because if you can angle your ship sort of sideways, your shell grouping is going to be tighter, just due to the lack of space between your guns. Shooting at that sort of angle, it'll form more of an ellipse, like a long circle. That's what'll end up happening. And that was something that I had a really hard time working on in my Russian destroyers, and that's kind of where I learned that little trick. If I want to get my dispersion really tight for a good shot, I got to angle my ship and get the enemy to angle in a certain way, and then I can usually land all my shells on them. And that's just something that I picked up from playing Russian destroyers for, golly, a long time. I initially hated Russian destroyers when they came out, but after a while I actually took a liking to them. And now they're probably my favorite destroyers to play. And this game is a little bit too close for my liking, unfortunately, because our battleship, who was on low health, is now basically charging into the enemy. He ends up getting killed because of it. I'm trying to stay out of the range of the dead carrier's planes. I don't really want to get spotted. Just taking a look to see what this guy's doing, and I know he's going to do what this guy always does. He's basically going to be going slower than hell. He's going to turn around and then speed up. And I have no idea if those torpedoes will hit. He could, and I'm just saying he could continue to sail in a straight line, just because of the airdropped torpedoes. It's hard telling. Yeah, he only ends up taking one of them, but I think, yeah, as I'm looking at the map, yeah, he definitely busted a 180. And he's essentially just getting the hell out of Dodge, which is fine by me, because the points are so close right now that if one of us dies, either me or the carrier, it's game over. And if I don't know if the point tick, yeah, it's a little bit desynchronized. And so essentially what I'm going to do to make sure that they don't somehow get a little bit more points is just sneak in here and sit in the cap so that they don't get any points while the game finishes out. And that was a pretty good game. Honestly, I didn't do a whole lot of damage myself. I just killed an enemy destroyer. That was about it. Took some shots at some carriers and whatnot. Yeah, you can see there. Killed a couple of people, but didn't end up on the top of the team. I just didn't do enough damage, and I didn't cap anything. So, that's pretty much that. But this destroyer and the Pan-Asians overall, I like them. They're a good mix of everything, and the deep water torpedoes is a nice little